I'm going to be the first to admit that by a lot of people's reckoning, I'm no great shakes. I'm not some fantastic human being who's accomplished a whole lot of stuff with his life. But I have to tell you that there are some people out there that I would consider, by comparison, even to someone like me, to be serious underachievers. And I want to talk about those people and some people, people like them today on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is August the 24th of 2021. And it is Tuesday today. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube. Remember that Rumble is my preferred platform. And the subject again for today is going to be underachievers. We're going to go through the notes real quick just so that we can kind of get a feeling for what it is that we're talking about. Is it really reasonable to spend your time trolling or otherwise taking jabs at people who are obviously unable to even recognize what's occurring? I'm currently watching a documentary in which it appears a group of folks chose to essentially work to confuse potentially cause an already clearly befuddled boy and young man. Cause his further confusion, right? Though I think some of them could be said to have conspired together, in general it seems to me that a bunch of folks who apparently had nothing better to do with their time just came to the conclusion it would be fun and entertaining for themselves and others to mess with the individual in question. I don't believe it was some sort of grand conspiracy, though that's not impossible. If it was, and again I'm not inclined to think so, it was even worse. That said, those involved seem to have taken part in a series of acts that would have made life pretty unbearable had they been leveled against their persons instead. Amazingly, particularly considering the fellow trolled is autistic, and I would, by the way, estimate he's probably mild, tending heavily towards moderate. That is level 1 tending towards level 2, where he seems to have come out to some pretty bad places. It can at least be said he held his own, probably with the help of, at the very least, his father, for a very long time. I have to ask a simple question. What on earth do you get or give in benefit for acting as the attackers did? Obviously, I've chosen to talk about just one case to this point. For whatever reason, this seems to not be nearly as uncommon as it ought to be, though. I want to ask a simple question. Do you really have nothing better to do with your time and effort? If not, you'll forgive me for so saying, but you're far more pathetic than the person you're hounding. If what you've been doing wasn't pretty much despicable, I'd feel sorry for you, because it is, though. I think you need to seek counseling. You also need to know I'd love to see ways You also need to know, I'm sorry, let me read that last bit again. Because it is, though, I think you need to seek counseling. You also need to know I'd love to see ways for folks to seek remedies, not just to get you to cease and desist, but to purge you from places where you chose to act in such ridiculous fashions. Having gotten further along, I want to add a little to this. I honestly think that certain of these individuals are definitely would definitely have been due for criminal charges, and certainly would still be so if the statute of limitations has not expired. Were I not strongly free speech, I would work to have you removed from polite society. Really, I don't need to, though, even if it were something I felt reasonable to do. Why? You've already disqualified yourselves. Put another way, you aren't part of polite society, people. When you act like these guys did, now I'm done with my notes, as you might have figured out. When you act as these people did, okay, so there's I'm not going to go into the details. You may already be apprised, you may be aware of a young autistic man who tried to do a bunch of things related to the comic book and video game world, starting fairly early on and working very hard to make a sort of an empire, which it appears he managed to completely fail at. And that young man also sought love. And I can understand his position better than you can imagine for a couple reasons. One, because I'm probably mildly autistic myself. And two, and this is way more important, I have a moderately autistic son myself. And so he's probably more autistic than this young man is. And I see this young man, and I see in him a lot of the things sort of more vividly explained than they are for my son, because you sort of have to intuit what you get from my son. With this young individual, and I'm not going to go into calling names of any of the people involved in this situation, he's obviously mildly autistic and like I say, trending towards moderate autism, and it means that the chances are that guy will never really live a complete life out on his own. He may be able to even live out on his own, that particular one, but he'll never live never live a complete life. And I've got to say, I'm gonna go with the bad first and the good next. His parents did certain things horribly wrong, in my opinion. Horribly wrong, in my opinion. Now I'll give the good. What they did, everything that I see them having done, with a couple of minor exceptions, they really tried very hard to do well by their son. Even though others would have said that that's not the case, even though that's true, I believe that they really tried to do well by their son. That's just something that I would argue. But here's the thing. For those of you, the underachievers out there who spent your time trolling this individual, posting personal stuff from this individual on the web where he didn't do it himself, there are a couple things about that. Number one, in at least a couple of instances, you literally should have been brought up on charges of terroristic threatening and potentially federal charges and potentially felonies. In other instances, you should have been brought up on charges of blackmail, and I don't think wire fraud quite applies, but it's something like that, where you use public utilities to take actions that are against the law. You really should have been brought up on charges, and you really pretty much, some of you should have been wearing orange jumpsuits as a result. I'm bringing all of this up because I don't think this is either an isolated incident, though this one is more celebrated, if you will, than many, nor do I believe that it's something that only happens, quote, on the internet. I think that it's something that still these days happens in regular old everyday life. And I have to say to you people, I have to try and get people to think, look, this poor kid was trying to hold his own in a society he probably did not completely understand. I don't know if he's still around or not, and if he is, he's probably still fighting demons of one kind or another. I'll just tell you that right now. He's not capable of understanding the world in even your limited way. Forget his own. He can't even do it, or forget, say, somebody like me who works for a living, raises children, develops software for a living and so forth. Forget someone like me. Even someone like you has a greater grasp, a stronger grasp on reality than does that poor young man. And the thing about it is this, considering how tenuous your grasp is, you people who are doing these bad things, you can imagine how tenuous, how loose his grasp must be. So I'm sitting here looking at all of this and going, people look at this and they laugh at this young man, right? And I don't laugh at any of this. None of this is funny. All of it is tragic. This is totally tragic. And the place where it's most tragic, where the young man did some things wrong, I would pretty much take everything that I saw from him, crumple it up, and toss it away. Now, there may be some things that he did that were illegal or whatever, and those may need to be dealt with, though I think leniency and extenuating circumstances may want to be considered in that. But there may be some things that he has to answer for. But in general, that young man, he did some stupid things. Guess what? We all do stupid things. He's not alone in that. I bet you're involved, you guys who were toasting him and roasting him on a regular and ongoing basis. I bet you were doing stupid things as well. So when I look at things like this, I go, really? This is how you choose to spend your time? Come on, guys. Do me one favor. Get a life. And I don't mean go and find someone more sophisticated to troll. I mean, Go out there, get a job, do something for a living that's worth talking about, and become reasonable, decent human beings. All right, I need to go ahead and wrap this up. This is a Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I am Kurt. Today is Tuesday, the 24th of August of 2024. Thank you for everybody who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform. You can give me a plus or a positive Rumble or a minus or a negative Rumble on Rumble. You can also hit the boxing glove a lot of times and give me a Rumble if you want to do that. You can give me a thumbs up or a like or a thumbs down or a dislike on YouTube. You can comment on either YouTube or Rumble, and I particularly would like that if you decide to give me negative feedback in terms of a negative Rumble or a dislike on YouTube. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope things are going well for you. The subject for today has been underachievers, and tomorrow we're going to talk about growing legs, which is a little more on this same quote documentary type of thing that I've been watching. Hope you're having a good day, as I say, and hopefully we will see you again on Wednesday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Tuesday, the 24th of August of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @KPSchubert. That's @KPSHUBERT. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.